Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today it is time to discuss Hollow Knight, to find the hole inside of ourselves, and in there is a little knight. He's like a bug also. And to discuss Hollow Knight, I'm joined as always by Pete Busby.
Hey. Excited to talk about a pretty interesting Metroidvania game. A lot going on with it. In honor of said bug-based game, I have a bug-based fact. So this one comes from the Max Planck Institute for Chemical Ecology. So, all of our favorites. Institute for Chemical Ecology. This was entitled, Caterpillars of the Peppered Moth Perceive Color Through Their Skin to Match Their Body Color to the Background. So these scientists found that they could blindfold these caterpillars, and even so, they would still find a stick that matched their body color for optimum camouflage. So instead of using their eyes, it seems like they're using their feet to decipher color, which is wild. Standard wild bug nonsense.
That's awesome. First follow-up question. These bugs, they had blindfolds on, yes? Were they tiny, adorable blindfolds?
No, there's really nothing adorable about the way they blindfolded them. It's kind of grim. So it doesn't say, I'll just say what happened. They painted their eyes with black paint.
Oh, so they never got to see again?
I don't know. It doesn't say whether or not the paint washed off, which I think they would have mentioned if it did.
I was hoping that there were just tiny little blindfolds that they tied on really daintily, but I guess science waits for no one.
No. Yeah, I wish it had been that. I also wish you just hadn't have asked the follow-up question, which was the obvious one. I asked it myself too. But no, it's grim.
Oh, I was hoping for the little picture, just little caterpillars doing science.
With tiny bug blindfolds.
Oh, well, that other voice you hear is our other regular co-host, M. Palladino. Hi, are you going to bum me out also?
I'll try not to. I don't have a fun fact to bum you out with, fortunately.
Excellent.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Well, as per usual, people can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. No emails today. However, you can also get in touch with us through our Patreon, patreon.com/deeplistens. And if you do support us there, which helps us put on the show and keep the lights on, you can get access to our Discord, which will allow you to, talk to the host of the show, get some inside info on what we're going to be playing next, get some of our thoughts on it before the podcast comes out, and suggest us future games to cover. So it's a cool way to help support the show, especially if you've been listening for a while. And if you do so, you can also get on the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This week on the Discord, we had our charity event of the year. How did that go for you, Gino?
Yes, so the Giant Bomb Community Endurance Run was last weekend. We raised, let me see the final tally. The final tally as of today. Come on, as of today. So I raised, we as a team raised $21,212.
Woo!
Wow.
Nice.
As a team. And I raised $1,697.
Also excellent work.
A friend of the show, Jeff Rude, raised $870. Friend of the show, Chris Zombie Pie Redacted, raised $917. So
You beat ZP.
Hell yeah. Smoked them both. Smoked them both combined. Not both combined. Close, though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was It was great to see. It was a great weekend. We had a lot of really cool stuff. A lot of the support came from the Giant Bomb staff participating this year, and Abby and the rest of the staff put on a stream on Friday night that kind of kicked us off, and that launched us pretty dang far. They raised, let's see, what was the total from just them? $12,974. So more than half of what we totally raised. So that was a big boost, and we had a lot of really cool events. You can, if you want to see any of it, if you go to explosiveruns.com, it has all of the streamers who streamed there, so you can, check out each person's individual Twitch or individual YouTube pages and see what happened there. We're going to try to get some highlights thrown together. But yeah, I broke my body on Friday by playing Ring Fit Adventure for 2 straight hours with escalating challenges. Our wheel...
You must be so fit.
I took an entire week off after the fitness explosion. We added a wheel of fitness that I would spin every $20 I raised, and on the wheel had different modifiers for how I would play the game, like leg day, so I could only use leg-based attacks for an entire level, or arm day. But then we also had hard mode, which made me turn the game up to 30 difficulty, which is the highest difficulty level, and I hit that one twice in a row, and that was really fucked up. And
is the workout good? Like, is it
yes.
It's decent? Nice.
It's a real workout.
Nice.
I mean, it's unweighted. There's a resistance ring. So the resistance ring gives you a little bit of, like, resistance training, but it's not the same thing as having free weights. But it'll have you do, like, 40 reps of squats or, like, 40 reps of planks.
Nice.
So all of those open air exercises, it'll just have you do ludicrous numbers. It combines yoga, arm exercises, leg, and core work. So I had hard mode twice. That was bad. And then at one point, Jen said if people donated, she would put peanut butter on me and make my dog lick it off as I was trying to exercise.
What?
And it was $20. She said, for $20, I'll just put peanut butter on him. And I was like, I'm in no position to stop you. I'm trying to do yoga right now. So at one point, Zeppy just started licking peanut butter off me as I tried to do squats or sit-ups. And then towards the end, I spun the wheel and hit penguin mode, which meant that I had to do everything in my penguin onesie. So the whole last half hour was me in a penguin onesie with peanut butter on my ankles, because that was the only part that was exposed, doing yoga that my body had long since failed. So yeah, it was a thing. Raised a lot of money though.
Well, that's good. That's what we're there for. Right?
Yeah, totally. Then Saturday, the Final Fantasy X run did not go super hot. I did not complete my Final Fantasy X speed run, so that's something that I'm going to be looking forward to actually completing later this year. I'll probably do that for Extra Life this year. But the hardship I ran into was twofold. One, I had a particularly bad string of luck in the middle of my run at the Thunder Plains. Em, do you remember the Thunder Plains?
Vaguely, yes.
You have to dodge lightning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was in a pretty good spot up until that point. Like, not in terms of time. I don't think I would have been able to beat the game in a good amount of time, but I felt like I could finish the game. But I got I got ambushed in the Thunder Plains by a trash mob that wiped my whole party before I got to take an action.
Oh, damn.
So I hadn't saved for over an hour before that because I thought I was safe. And I wasn't, and that cost me an hour, and that was pretty demoralizing. I bounced back, got pretty far. I got up to past where you get Shiva, but I wasn't particularly close to the end of the game. Otherwise, I would have tried to push through. But that hour setback, I might have been able to get towards the end of the game if not for that. And then my second mistake was just I didn't fully map out exactly how I was going to get from point A to point B on the sphere grid. I knew where I had to end up, but I didn't think about how long I had to go without leveling so that I could have the key spheres to get to where I needed to go when I actually spent those levels. So for a lot of time, I was just casually leveling my characters so that I wouldn't be completely outclassed by enemies. And then by the time I had to get where I needed to go, I had used too many sphere levels and moved too far. So I couldn't backtrack and then get to where I needed to go. So it was it would have required me to grind, or I would have had to come up with some sort of alternate strategy. But I think next time I'll have more than a month to prepare, and I'll have some backup strategies in my pocket so that I'm more prepared. And I know that game is beatable in about 10 hours, and I think that I can get into that ballpark. So I'll just need to do my research a little bit stronger. And then Sunday was a pretty good one. I just played Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. Everyone's talking about Final Fantasy VII, you know?
It's really in the public eye right now.
Yeah, everyone's thinking about the Svets and Vincent Valentine and Yuffie. All the characters.
Kate, Sith.
Weiss and Rosso and Azul the Cerulean. Pete, which of those names did I make up?
I know Aerith is a thing. So that's a person, right? Look, if you asked me anything about Blitzball, I can answer that.
You did call in for a Blitzball discussion. So I just played and answer. I made up none of those names. Those were all real character names.
That would not have been my guess.
Yeah, Loco the Madness. That one's a fake one.
It could very easily be real.
Yeah, and then I finished the day just playing some MTG Arena for a little bit, just to decompress. But it was a great event. Thank you to everyone who participated. Thanks to everyone who donated. I'll have a raffle for the Life Siphon, the autographed copy of Life Siphon that Billy got from PAX East to give away. So I'll be running that soon, and I'll be giving that out. And I'm looking forward to it next year. It was a super fun time. Really weird this year because of all of the, everyone's in quarantine. Everyone's in isolation. So that changed a lot of events. We had an entire thing planned with y'all coming over to my place and doing an escape room and doing all these other fun events. Ring Fit Adventure was supposed to be a team exercise, but alas, we'll have to table it for next year.
That just means you have time to iterate, and by next year, it's going to be a escape mansion.
Yes. I'll get extra cameras. We'll get a soundboard. It'll be great. But yeah, it was a great time, and all the money went to Direct Relief's COVID-19 Response Fund, procuring personal protective equipment and other items for frontline medical workers. So all that money, I think, is going to a good cause, and I was super proud of how everyone did. This is our biggest year yet. It gets bigger every single year, and I say this all the time, but I remember when I first participated and we struggled to crack $1,000, and now almost every single runner is approaching $1,000 raised by themselves, and it's just amazing to see the amount of effort and the amount of coordination and all of the cool things that people have shown. If you can, I would seek out Nikki Rooney on Twitch, twitch.tv/Nikki Rooney, NICKIEROONIE. He did a foot run of Celeste. He beat Celeste with his feet.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he beat it in about an hour and 40 minutes.
What the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would watch that if you can. It's really impressive.
I couldn't beat that game in an hour and 40 minutes with my hands.
I couldn't beat that game with my hands. Period. I used a assist at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he just beat it in an hour 40 minutes with his feet. It was madness. I'd watch that stream if you can. But yeah, that's everything on the Community Endurance Run. Thank you to all who participated and all who donated once again. And Em, I believe we had a hot discussion in the Discord that we should probably touch on.
Yeah.
And Pete, we need your opinion.
CP requested that this be one of the things we brought up. We had a very in-depth discussion a couple of days ago about what qualifies as a furry, and ZP was trying to decide if Zidane from Final Fantasy IX counts as a furry because he has a tail. And then we went over all of the different races in Final Fantasy games. ZP was making outrageous claims, as he often does, about if Hellboy would be a furry.
No.
If the monster from The Shape of Water is a furry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are lizard men furries? Various.
Fun fact, did you know that the guy from The Shape of Water is the same guy from Hellboy, the fish man
Yes.
from Hellboy?
Yep.
Really?
The same fish man.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I guess that makes sense.
Canonically related.
Well, no, I mean, like, the actor, it's the same actor.
Yeah.
What's the fish person's name in Hellboy?
Abe Sapien.
Abe, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically any movie with Guillermo del Toro, if someone's got weird hands, it's all the same actor. Like the
That's
Eye
nice,
Monster.
Same dude?
Pan's Labyrinth, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, if you want to see that actor, he's in Hocus Pocus.
What? Great movie.
He's the zombie.
Oh, yeah.
Good tunes in that one, too. So I'll weigh in.
All right.
First off, I think off the top of my head, I think furries have to be mammals. Hence the term furry. You know, it refers directly to the fur.
It's fair.
Now, I think anything... I don't think a tail alone would make a furry.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you have a tail and, like, cat ears, yeah, that puts you over the edge.
It's not enough.
No, you don't think?
That's, like, if you are, like, if cat girls have just ears and a tail, and we're like, I don't think that qualifies. I think there's a line you have to cross if they're, like, furry or not, literally, decides if they're furries.
That sticks with my mammal premise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I answered ZP's question with a question, which was, is Goku a furry? Because if Zidane is a Goku, he's just got a tail, and then under certain circumstances, he gets hairier. Well, Goku becomes a large ape.
That's true. In large ape form. See, but no, at that point, he might not be human enough anymore. Like, is there a line where it just goes from furry to just, straight bestiality?
You a monkey?
I think the distinction that we made at the end of this conversation was a furry is a animal with humanoid traits rather than a human with animal traits.
Okay. Yeah, because like Tony the Tiger is very popular amongst the furry community, and he's basically just a tiger.
Yeah.
A sexy tiger.
That's true. My dude's hot.
Yeah, I would say Zidane in transform, yes. Regular Zidane, no. Goku, no. Monkey Goku, maybe.
Monkey Goku, also no. Too far.
Super Saiyan 4, when is it that Goku gets fuzzy hair?
Super
Saiyan
Saiyan
4.
Nailed it. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, much like Trans Zidane, yes. All right, well, we've settled this debate, which means it is time for my obsession. And this week, my obsession is it's magic. It's Magic the Gathering Ikoria.
What?
It's the new set.
How can this be? Explain.
Yep.
Ikoria?
Yep, Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths.
Oh, sure, yeah, that Ikoria.
It's the new Magic the Gathering set. It is monster, like, kaiju focused. And there are, fittingly, there are a set of Godzilla-inspired cards that are in the set with alternate Godzilla names and Godzilla art, which is pretty cool. There are multiple Godzillas that you can play.
Godzilla?
Yes, there's Baby Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Baby Godzilla, you got bigger Godzilla. All sorts
Not
of
even
Godzillas.
Just Godzilla. There's like Mothra. You can play Rodan. Ghidorah.
Yep.
All those monsters.
Space Godzilla.
Is Mechagodzilla in it?
Mechagodzilla is there.
Isn't
We
it?
got the whole team.
Yep.
King Caesar's there.
How do you actually get those cards? I was wondering.
So in Arena, you just play Premier Draft.
Hmm.
Like if you just do drafts, they give you a style every time you draft.
Oh, that's cool.
At least I think through May. But I've just been chaining drafts. Premier Draft, they've finally introduced drafting against humans.
Oh, wow.
After a year
Took them long enough.
of having to draft against bots. And I will say the humans are worse than the bots at drafting. They tend to pass the most busted deck every time I play, it would seem. I don't feel like I've gotten cut off of white-red cycling or some sort of cycling deck every single time I do it. So that objectively is probably wrong, but humans at least tend to have some sort of idea of what they're drafting, some sort of theme, whereas the bots would do the same thing every time. So, like, if you knew what the bots were up to, there were no signals really to read. Like, maybe one color was open or not, just because the bots would be screwy, but the bots would usually just rare draft. It was hard to get rares after a certain point. There were some cards that the bots just never valued, and you could get them all over the place, and it just felt like the same experience over and over and over again. The only difference was which rares you got. Whereas this, I feel like Ikoria is both a very interesting set to draft. It's got a lot of mechanics going on. There's a lot of cross-pollination between cards in terms of which decks they go in. And because of all of those things, Ikoria is just a blast to draft. Unfortunately, it seems like there's one deck that's just a lot better than all the other decks and kind of eclipses them when it comes together. And most of the people in the upper tiers of draft, I'm in Diamond right now, and it seems like it's just mirror matches of white-red cycling, red-blue cycling over and over and over again, which is kind of a bummer. But up until this point, it's been great. Like, every draft's been super unique, and I think I've got a decently broken standard deck, and that's fun. And a bunch of these cards are going to get banned because they're too strong.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at right now. Just trying to explore the cards before some of them get banned, and enjoying the draft format because now that I'm drafting against humans, I can actually exercise the skills that I've built up. So without further ado, let's move to our main topic, Hollow Knight. So Hollow Knight. Pete, what's a Hollow Knight?
Okay. So a Hollow Knight is, God, I guess let's just talk about the game. We'll get into lore in a second. There's a ton of it. So Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania game where you play a small bug creature that, not the titular Hollow Knight, but a knight of some sort who carries a nail, uses it as a sword, and your job is to fight your way through these various nests, communities, cities of bugs. And you eventually, your mission, so to speak, emerges as, I don't know, let's say removing a plague from the land for now.
Yep. And so you're Metroidvania around with your tiny knight, going through areas, slowly filling out your map, killing enemies, and acquiring the same 3 skills that every game of this type gives you. You'll get a double jump. Spoilers. You'll get a dash move. And the game's set in the Hollow Nest, which is this gigantic bug city that used to be a metropolis but now has fallen into disarray. And we'll discuss some of the mechanics and things, but I think to start off, like, what were the elements of this game that stood out to you? Maybe tone, music, art, story, like what separated it? Because even on this podcast, I feel like we've played 6 or 7 different Metroidvanias in the last 3 years.
It's true. I mean, this and, shit, what's that one where you restart all the time? Dead Cells.
Which one? Dead Cells?
Just the genre.
Roguelite.
There we go. Roguelite.
Yeah.
Roguelite. We've played a lot of those too. But in terms of Metroidvania games, I think this one has the second best story and lore we've played beyond Castlevania. just because everything flips upside down and you can't beat that.
That's true.
But
That's a fact.
For me, I mean, the mechanics are the mechanics. They're fine. They're interesting enough, but they're not really eye-catching. But I think sort of the world building, while I have some problems with it I'll discuss, was probably the best part of the game.
Yeah. It's, we're probably going to discuss how much of a Souls-like this is in the Dark Souls vein. That seems to be like standard for that sort of genre. And adding it to a platformer, Metroidvania style game was interesting. I feel like it sort of detracted from, like, each component detracted from the other one in ways, but we can get to that. Yeah, it's a weird mashup of these two different genres, which I think made it interesting, but probably not my thing. I was not very good at it, as as anyone in the Discord probably has noticed.
Yeah, so for me, I liked some of the characters that you run into, like the little shopkeep. I thought was pretty fun. The chariot, that's also the fast travel system, the stag network. I thought that dude was cool. The proportions of the enemies, because your little knight is super tiny, and the things you're fighting tend to get bigger and bigger than him. I thought that was kind of interesting. Some of the enemy designs I thought were pretty cool. Like, there was some bugs that, like, shot crystals out, and then when the crystals hit the ground, they turn from these little crystals into these kind of explosions of crystals. And I thought the animation was really smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was also interesting how you could kind of get these notches that would allow you to modify your knight so that you could kind of customize in a way. Like, I eventually got some ability that let me turn off the attack recoil, so you stayed in place whenever you attacked instead of bouncing back. And that was a big game changer for me, just being able to control my character without having to worry about weight, getting thrown around. There were a bunch of little tweaks like that I thought were interesting to offset some of your character's inherent weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. By the time I picked that up, I was so used to getting knocked back and like having to charge back in, that messed me up quite a few times.
Yeah,
so I would just
I never got
stand
used
there.
to it.
Yeah. I don't know,
Yeah,
I kind of like that responsiveness.
I tended to focus, just speaking of those upgrades, so you have basically a mana system through Soul, it's called, that you get by defeating enemies or taking damage, the standard stuff. But I found the spells pretty useful, honestly. So I focused most of my upgrades on Soul growth, basically farming Soul. Put it that way.
So that you can, and the soul is kind of your way of healing yourself, and it can be used for offensive magic. So you're kind of balancing keeping your health up with attacking things so they can't damage you, which also kind of keeps your health up. So yeah, I thought that all of those mechanics were pretty interesting, and I liked the art style a lot. I liked some of the layouts of the individual maps and some of the bugs that you encounter. Were there any standout encounters or locations that really worked for you, really clicked?
I think the easiest part to start might be this is a Metroidvania game, so obviously there are tons of just sort of like mini bosses.
Yep.
So I think the best one, again, I think there's a right answer to this. I think the best one's the Dung Defender. He's a dung beetle that just sort of like swims into the dung and like heaves it around at you, and he makes these like 1930s workout noises. You know what I mean? Like up, whoop, he just does that as he's swimming around the dung. Dung Defender was my favorite. I think his location's shit. Not as much. Right? I think it's not very good, but I think he as a boss is great.
To the noise point, I really like all the little sounds that all these bosses and even the NPCs make. They're like just little boop noises, but they're so cute. They got a lot of character to them. Did you guys fight the Mantis Lords?
Yeah, they're like 3 of them on the thrones.
Yeah, I thought that fight was pretty. I think I challenged it too early, and so I was just banging my head against it a lot. But by the end of it, it was kind of like a neat little dance that you had going. I also liked Hornet. Hornet's cool. She kind of like is traveling in parallel with you, it seems. I actually got stuck on her the second time around. So she's a character.
She also uses a needle, which is really cool. So it's like attached with a piece of thread. So she'll swing it around. She'll do all these sort of like acrobatic jumps and flips and other such things. She actually has a much cooler combat style than the Knight, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would get that sort of fluidity, and you eventually get some fluidity, but not to the degree she has. I thought the Soul Collector, I think that was the enemy.
Soul Master?
Soul Master, yeah, he shoots balls of light and jumps around a lot and teleports all over the place. That was kind of fun.
When that guy first showed up, he scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I liked it. You see him in the background just kind of hovering, and then as you try to leave his area, he just teleports in and is up on you. And then the first time I beat, like, he has multiple phases, and after you beat him the first time, he like shrivels up and his soul comes out, and you try to seize it, and then he comes back to life, and you have to fight him again in kind of a last desperation sort of situation. And I thought that was a pretty cool turn of events. And it unlocked a pretty cool ability to use, the ground pound. But what did you think of kind of this game's progression? Like, you said that you went down to fight these mantises too early, and that might have been a bummer. I found there were a lot of times where I went too far into an area, basically got into a place where I couldn't go back where I came from without finding a fast travel. And then I was just stuck there until I could find a map, because this game does not just fill in your map as you go. You need to buy a map from a map maker, and then after you buy it, it will fill in whenever you sit at a bench, which is kind of the save point of the game. So you don't get to fill in your map until you sit at benches, and if you're in a completely new area, you don't get a map at all, period. You also need to equip a badge that will allow you to see where you are on the map. So it actually is detrimental to your overall combat efficacy if you want to know where the fuck you are. And I just found that many of those little decisions in the early game really frustrated me rather than being interesting choices. I felt like if I was playing this game a second time, it might be an interesting choice because I might know where things are. And so having that precise knowledge of exactly where I am, or, should I buy this map or not? Can I use that money better some other way? That's a choice. But as someone who's playing the game the first time, not having those things just meant I was lost all the time.
Yeah. Like, in Metroid, like, it fills in the map for you and it tells you where you are. So having this, like, sort of counterintuitive system for just wandering around the place, and then maybe you find the guy who is the cartographer, or maybe you're just in the City of Tears wandering around forever, as I did, because he's in a strange, like, off the beaten path place. It kind of makes it harder to backtrack, for one. I had no idea where I had to go in order to progress, and I couldn't even, like, return to town and, like, spend my, what do you call them, Geo?
Yeah,
that's the currency. And so that was a real bummer for a lot of what I was doing.
I agree with all these points. I wonder too so it seems to me like the problem of, like, not necessarily knowing where to go or potentially stumbling upon things that you're not quite ready for yet as a character is just sort of generally one of the symptoms of Metroidvania games. Like, this is sort of a difficulty that's inherent in the genre. Now, I agree completely they exacerbated it with this map structure, but I feel like it almost comes with the territory regardless.
I don't think that's true. And I think
Well,
that...
Gino, to hell with you then.
No, I mean just some examples of some of the games that we've played.
No,
like
totally.
Castlevania, for example, they gate you very, very effectively
Yeah.
by what abilities you have access to. You can't get to certain levels without having, all of your abilities unlocked. Now, there are some circumstances where there are super bosses or things like that you'll stumble into that are much more powerful, but they tend to be in the late game and only because you have all of your abilities. I found that there were a few times in Hollow Knight where I was able to get into a location that was deep, like in what is the level where you fight Hornet the first time with all the grass everywhere?
Green Path?
Yeah, Green Path. If you go far south in Green Path, you can go into this area full of exploding jellyfish. That's like the next area over. And I was able to do that before I got the dash because I was just able to navigate the area well enough. And that area is just full of exploding jellyfish. You can't get a map for it. Like, you don't have the ability to traverse that area properly. But I had moved to this area far away from the nearest save point, far away from any sort of safety, because I thought that was where I was supposed to go. Because I was used to having games really gate you hard by what abilities you have. This game does not. It'll let you go into these areas that are dead ends for indeterminate amount of times. And when you die in this game, if you die twice, you lose all of your money because it cribs that design decision from Dark Souls. If you die once, your soul just stays wherever you died. You have to kill it, and if you kill it, you get your money back. If you die twice, your money's gone forever. And when I was in places that I wasn't used to, I played incredibly cautiously because I knew that if I died there, I'd have to get back to where I was. Otherwise, my money would be gone. But that meant I had to traverse back into this place that I didn't really understand and then get out of there without dying, which was not trivial on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
I found it to just be a bummer.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
Pete, go.
I generally react against anything cribbed from Dark Souls, just because Dark Souls isn't really in my wheelhouse. But I will say that there's a shop that'll like get rid of your extraneous souls for you if you give the shopkeeper rotten eggs.
Is that what those are for?
Yeah, that's what those are for.
I kept picking them up, and I was like, I don't know what to even do with these.
I think that's the only thing you can do with them. But yeah, they'll make your souls disappear, and you get the stuff back.
Yeah, and that's, yet again, like kind of cribbing from Souls, having a bunch of shopkeepers and mechanics that you can miss or just not have it explained to you. Have an item that's just like, oh, it's a crappy egg. What's this for? Who knows, LOL. And then actually this is secretly this important item that can help you in a pinch. Like, I just found that a lot of those decisions were much more punishing to a player who does not have knowledge. Like, this game is aggressively mean to players who aren't ready for it. Like, if you don't do your research, and I mean like actual research, like if you're not going to read up on the game, look at a guide, watch a wiki, like read a wiki, go to a walkthrough, this game will let you walk down a path that's completely you're unprepared for, and you can get through it because at the end of the day, the mechanics are platformer mechanics. Like, I was able to traverse jellyfish hell for a pretty good amount of time before I died, before I realized that, oh, I'm not even supposed to be here. There's literally nowhere I can go. And it's not just I'm not platforming right or I'm not doing the right thing. I just don't have the move yet. Whereas other games will guide you a lot more in the early game to make sure that sort of stuff doesn't happen because it's a bummer.
Mm-hmm. And there's no way to indicate, well, it doesn't innately indicate on your map, like, you need the double jump to get through this area. So there were times where I would see, like, oh, there's an open path on my map going in this direction, and I would go back there and I would need, like, the wall climb before I had the wall climb. I would just be like, okay, I wasted my time again because I'm an idiot and can't remember this is here. So in looking for avenues to like continue the game, basically, it just complicated my time. I probably died, a dozen times just trying to get places that I've already been. And then when I got there, it was nothing because I didn't have the move. And I didn't know where to go to get it.
I have to say, there were so many times where I knew what the move was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I could see, oh, you're going to give me a double jump and I can get up there. Oh, you're going to give me a ground pound and I'm going to break through this area underground. Oh, you're going to give me a wall climb and then that's going to be how I get up here. And this game, were it not for the Metroid, the Dark Souls elements, I think would be completely pleasant, but unremarkable. Like, I think a lot of the designs, the boss designs, the level designs are good. Like, I enjoyed the bosses when I fought them. The whole time I was just like, what if I just died here and then started at the boss again instead of having to fight my way back to it? What then? Would I like this game more or less? I'd like it more. What if I got to keep my money and I didn't have to worry about constantly playing at a snail's pace because any of these enemies could kill me? And if I take them up not seriously, I'll just die. Everything that came from a Souls game made me like this game less, except maybe the tone. Like, these, dying world where people are succumbing to madness, I thought was an interesting setting, and I liked some of the art design there and some of the story implementation. But all of the mechanics that cribbed from Dark Souls, especially like when you start out and you're getting knocked back every time you attack, I just found that to be
wild.
Yeah, really annoying. I know that it made it play differently than other platformers, but it made it play in a way that really fucked with my ability to play it for the first hour or two until I got, better abilities and more mobility. So yeah, the whole time I was just thinking, like, what if this played like a normal platformer? I would probably like it more, but then I don't think it would have found an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Gino, I'd like to circle back just for a moment to a point you made before about like mechanics you can just sort of like stumble over and miss. Because this is one thing I noticed about the lore of the game, because I think that's another thing that makes this pretty popular. It's just sort of like how dense this world is. But at a certain point, I find, not annoying, but I find that there's like sort of diminishing returns. Like I find this a lot of sci-fi content as well. That like, especially when it comes to world building, or in this case, mechanics too, the default assumption always seems to be more is more. So they tack on these sort of, not necessarily incoherent, but at the very best tangential other aspects of this world on the assumption that like, oh, you want more of these things, right? And I think it creates something that becomes sprawling to the point of almost incoherence. Like if you look, so I watched lore videos for this game, and when you have an hour plus long lore video for a Metroidvania game, maybe you have too much,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that a lot of those, the way that the story's told is also very Dark Souls. Like you find a single thing written incredibly cryptically, and then you go to a wiki and it's like, oh, if you read this and then talk to this NPC twice, then you find out that stone means that this person died. And it's like, why do I care who this person is? Who is this person? Oh, I need to go to this, message board with threads of string tying these things together, and then I can understand the grand narrative here that this place is spooky and some bad stuff happened here for lore reasons.
I participated in a talk this past week at Hunter College. They do this like waffle games thing, which is like a con situation. And one of the talks that they did was environmental storytelling. And the guy who was giving the presentation, he basically said that if you have this sprawling story, you can make it be in places where the player won't need to find it unless they go looking for it. like if they are lingering in a spot for longer than 2 minutes, and then the NPC says something else that is like a little bit more expandy, I think that's where the brunt of the storytelling in this game comes up. And that's sort of a strategy. It's like, if you are bored with the, gameplay, we need to have ways of presenting something else interesting enough that you will keep playing, which is the point that he sort of made, for games like this. He used Dark Souls as an example, of course, because that's like quintessential, environmental storytelling at work. But this game does it even more, probably because there's less to not less to do, but you can't mess around as much as in Dark Souls, or there's even less direction than a Dark Souls game because you're just wandering around. So I think they're trying to make it seem like there's more to it, and in doing so, we're kind of just sort of scratching the surface. And then there are people out there on YouTube who post these hour-long videos that are like, here's everything we found. And we're like, I didn't see half of that shit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's neat, but ultimately I was like, here's a stone. I click on the stone, it says some weird stuff. I move on with my life.
Yeah, and I think that the game definitely had depth there. I'm not saying that the story is not rewarding if you care to find it. I just found that the sell it's a hard sell, and as someone who is off-put by the gameplay and off-put by many of the mechanics, I did not want to linger in this world long enough to learn about why the fuck the bugs were haunted.
Yeah.
Which, that's fine. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, should we explain, just for the sake of our listeners, why the bugs are haunted?
Yeah, why are the bugs haunted?
All right, I'll do it in less than an hour, I promise. This is my
Please.
précis.
I'll kick you off the show if you don't.
So initially, there was this moth god called the Radiance. And
Mothra?
No, unfortunately, that would have been a better name, but probably a copyright issue. It's called the Radiance. And it was, well, she was king, queen, god for a while. And then this other king showed up, the Pale King. And he was like, nope, I'm in charge now. So he started taking over. He started building his empire. And eventually he overthrew the Radiance and basically brought civilization to the bugs. Before they were dumb, now they were smart. So they locked the Radiance away using the Hollow Knight as a vessel to contain it. And then these 3 super bugs sacrificed themselves to support the Hollow Knight. Radiance got imprisoned, but they didn't do a good job. Radiance started to leak out, infected the bugs. That's what drove them crazy. Now you kill them, and then you have to basically reset the containment. You have to retrap the Radiance. That's a simple version, but it's basically right.
And there are multiple endings. You can make yourself the vessel to trap the Radiance, or you can get, I guess, Hornet to help you, or you can vanquish the Radiance for good if you do the right sequence. If you get the right sequence of items and you find a thing in the bottom of some place, you know how it is.
Yeah, it's standard stuff. Nothing's a surprise here, really.
No, it's just like in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If you don't get the sunglasses, you can't see that Richter's being possessed, and then you kill Richter, and it's a bummer. So yeah, I mean, all that story stuff is cool. I think that the idea that these bugs were better off by casting away their old god and their way of life in favor of this conqueror is a bit of an odd choice. It's a different story, I should say.
Yeah, it's very much that civilization is sort of an unquestioned good here. I mean, there's some resistance, but it's really like, oh, you primitives and your foolish worship of this god. Let me correct this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wasn't invested enough in the game to really see enough of it to say one way or another how I feel about it. So I kind of a question branching off of that, because like the tone kind of being dark and about overthrowing this foul god that is driving people mad. Again, cribbed very closely from the Dark Souls games tonally. Do you think that the Souls games or the mechanical underpinnings of those games have to be tied to a game that is so grim and dark and centered on otherworldly beings that are kind of perpetuating an endless cycle of death? Because it feels like every game I've seen that uses the Souls mechanics also buys into the Souls tone and the Souls design aesthetic. Like you grab everything when you go in there. I don't know why. Maybe there's a discount rate if you buy the cryptic storytelling and currency coming from enemies, and if you die twice, you're fucked. Mechanics, but I don't get it.
Like, I think a lot of what the mechanical things are is like punishment. And then I feel if you had it on like a lighthearted, pleasant experience, it would be like tonal dissonance. Because ultimately this game is trying to sort of tilt you, and then you will make more mistakes and you will fuck up and then you'll lose all your shit and the game will be like, haha, gotcha. Which really sucks.
All along.
Yeah. You learned all those lessons and now I'm going to stomp on you and then you're going to die to something stupid. And it's going to feel bad because you've lost what might be hours of work. And so,
Idiot.
Yeah, you fucking go back to school. Is one of the things that I really don't like about those kinds of games. And part of why I think the experience is so grueling, and making it this dark and gritty experience was like something of the time it was created in, that feels like harsh, especially now that we've got other ways of finding enjoyment in games that isn't like kicking you every time you mess up.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've never enjoyed the Dark Souls games, so I'm probably not the target audience, really. But I think M's spot on with this one. That really the game needs an excuse to be really mean to you.
Mm-hmm.
And a dark, gloomy tone is a decent excuse to just be a dick the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe what I just don't understand is, like, if I go to a gym and I'm going to try and better myself, I am not as strong as I would like to be. But I have goals. I want to improve. I want to get better. Would I talk to some people talk to the gym instructor who just yell at you and say that you're a piece of shit and why don't you work out more? I assume. That seems to be Bobby Knight's way of doing things. Or, there have been coaches who have
Frank Izzo, tons of them.
Yeah, who have just treated people like utter shit and have gotten away with it because winning. But most of the time I would work with someone who meets me on my level and tries to boost me up and build me up, even if they're going to ask me to do things that are difficult and time-consuming and I might not be able to do. Might be even physically painful. And I don't understand why there can't be a collaborative tone in any of these games. Like, why can't we just have a character who starts out weak and they want to get better, and so the world's like, okay, it's going to be tough. Are you sure? Okay, let me show you the way. And maybe you fail a bunch of times, but it's in service of growing. It shouldn't be meta-narrative that you grow as you play these games. And I feel like that's the meta-narrative that people have structured around these kind of dickish ways that the game treats you. But I don't see why there couldn't be a positive narrative of growth outside of what people grapple onto it or slap onto it after they've invested hours into the game.
Do you, like I said, I don't really play Dark Souls, but it seems to me always that the point of Dark Souls isn't getting good. Like, the point of Dark Souls is being good.
Mm.
Like, how you got to that point's irrelevant to the game or any other, like, people involved in it. They don't give a shit. They just want you to be good.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand. I'm not saying that there can't be games that have this tone. I just wonder why every game that makes these design decisions, which do not have to be grappled onto the tone, and like you said, Pete, there's a good reason why you might pair a dark, grueling, dying world with a game whose mechanics center around death, punishing you for dying, and being dickish about where they position random enemies. But I don't think you have to do that. Like, you could have a world that even like, what are the... Oh, man, there were those platformers, they were... It's kind of a Mario game. I Want to Be the Guy?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Mario?
No, it's I Want to Be the Guy. It's a punishingly difficult game that's very much not for sale because it uses a bunch of IPs. But it's very... it does a lot of the same dickish stuff. Like, you do a thing, you move 3 feet, and then the game just kills you. You move 3 feet, and the game just kills you because, you know, a pixel that's supposed to behave like a normal... It looks like it's a thwomp, but it's not actually a thwomp. It doesn't behave like a thwomp, and so it murders you. Like, it moves horizontally or some shit, you know? You expect the world to be one way, and it's not, which is a lot of the Souls experience. But that game is zany and fun. It might not be fun to play. I don't think I would get through it just because it's so punishingly difficult, but the tone isn't the same. Like, the tone of that game is kind of haphazard and fun. Like, Ryu will come out of nowhere and show Ryuken you when you think you're at the Mario level.
I see what the point you're getting at, Gino, but it still doesn't seem like collaborative. Like, definitely seems zany and fun, but I still don't think the game's interested in you improving.
Oh, no, but I'm just saying there are at least different tones. Why can't we just get...
Okay.
We can get to a game where, hey... You're in, it could be Gym World, it could be anything. You know, you can come up with, the world is your oyster. I'm not here to design a game. But I would like to see someone take these mechanics because I don't hate playing these games all the time. I hate some of the choices that are made that make the world off-putting, that just feel abusive to the player, without having any sort of offsetting positivity, you know? I would prefer if the game just had a little bit of, like, hey, I know this sucked. You're going to get through this. We're going to figure things out. Like, I wouldn't mind if that just existed. So please, someone who's making some sort of Souls game, I know that you like awkwardly controlling things that are going to punish me. I'm going to open a treasure chest, and then it's going to eat me, and you're going to be like, haha, idiot.
Haha, you thought this treasure chest was treasure, but actually, fuck you.
It was a mimic. You should have known that by hitting it with a sword. Then you would have known it was a mimic, dum-dum.
I wonder, and maybe you can give a better answer to this. What's, like, the appeal of making a game like that, where, like, the point's just to be, like, mean to the player?
I mean, there's something to be said for, I guess, the skill involved. Like, you are honing some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, a literacy with the game you're trying to play.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, I Want to Be the Guy, kind of, has that, and then it will change its meaning sort of on the fly just because it wants to fuck with you.
Yeah, that game's referential as shit.
Yeah. And then in games like this, it seems to be like try to learn patterns and then do those patterns over and over again because you keep dying, and if you want your stuff, you have to get back to your stuff. Yeah, I don't know. The overall theme seems to be like get good, And if you are not good, we're going to beat you into the ground until you become good.
Maybe I think the game that has the tone that I want is Celeste.
Yeah.
It did
Okay.
a lot of the difficulty that this game had. It has a lot of the same mechanics that this game has. And the difference between this game and Celeste is that Celeste the entire time was saying, hey, you can climb the mountain. You're going to get through this. You're beating yourself up, but you can get through this. And if you just master these skills, you'll be better for it. And it was just as punishing. I think it was just as difficult as this game. But at the end of the day, I got to the end of Celeste. And it also had accessibility options that allowed me to get through it. And did anyone check? I didn't see in Hollow Knight if it also had any sort of difficulty modifiers.
I didn't even look, honestly.
But Celeste, at the end of the day, if you wanted to climb the mountain and you needed some assistance, Celeste had multiple accessibility options for you. It did not judge the sort of enjoyment you were going to get out of the game. And that is the exact kind of tone I'm talking about. Like, it was giving me something incredibly difficult, but the entire way was saying, you'll get through this, it'll be okay.
Yeah. Like, I think the difference between Celeste and this game is that this game is like taking stuff away from you that you have earned. Celeste does not do that. It is like completely, if you mess up, that's unfortunate, but the only thing you have lost is time, and you are going to get better because of that. This game, it will take your time, it will take your money, and it will tell you...
just time again.
Yeah, which you will have to re-earn because everything in the... Oh, that's another thing I want to talk about. Everything in this game is completely based on the geo you have. If you want fast travel, you have to pay the bug to show up, which the ultra capitalist, for some reason the bugs have decided money is how they want to run their society, which is just another way of hamstringing the player.
Just money and violence. Those are the only currencies.
Pretty much. That's what really, I think sticks out to me.
Did it bug you?
Yes.
A lot of jokes.
You got jokes, I see. Yeah, that's very Souls-esque as well. Your progression is based on how much money you can accrue. And then because you have done that, you will get access to stuff like fast travel, which is such a pain in the ass. There's a bank in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can open an account.
You have to pay to open an account. And then I don't even know where to get my money once I put it in there.
You have to go back to her.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I going to do that?
What's the benefit? Is it that you just don't lose it when you die?
Yeah, I banked some money in there so that I wouldn't lose it when I died, and then I took it out, and when I was going to go spend it, I died on the way back to where I was going, and then I lost all my money.
Is there only one bank location?
I found one. I didn't see a second. Maybe there is another one?
There's only one as far as I know.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff like that. I, at one point, had to buy the lantern so that I could see all these dark areas, and I knew that I needed a lantern, and I just kept dying and losing all of my money, and then at that point I was like, okay, I guess I'm never going to finish this game because I don't actually care to see what's in these dark areas. I know what's supposed to happen here. I actually got into the crystal mines, and there were a bunch of dark areas kind of off the main track, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be in there with the lantern or not, because you can go there before you get the lantern. And then I couldn't find the guy who sold me the map. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'm stuck here because you can't leave until you find the fast travel location, I guess. I found no way to leave. So I just quit.
That's fair.
So yeah, this is Hollow Knight. It's a good game. We didn't like it.
Critically acclaimed, not by us.
Not our deal. I will say, I now appreciate Valda's story Abyssal City more.
Game of the Year of all the Story Whistle City?
Game of the Year of all the Story Whistle City. Because I feel like that game is a lot of this game. Like, they have a lot of the same design aesthetics, but I found the progression system in Valda's Story to be more my speed. Felt like you could kind of break that game in ways that you couldn't Hollow Knight. This game is about having a Spartan character who has very limited tool set. Wow, Valda's Story is like a weird fighting game in a lot of ways, and you had multiple characters to play with.
Mostly.
I feel like I have to try this now.
It's a solid game. I feel like it's a solid indie platformer.
I hear it's Game of the Year.
Yeah, we could have made it Undertale, but instead it was that.
Because Undertale's the worst game ever made.
All right.
Well, on that note, I think that's it for Hollow Knight. Which means it's now, I believe, my turn once again to pick what game we play for the podcast. And I think that I'm going to give y'all some options. I want to play a strategy game, a strategy art like a tactics style game,
like a turn-based,
like a turn-based, grid-based tactics game. I was jonesing for it. I checked to see if Floppy Nights was available yet, and it is not. I will play that when it comes out. But in lieu of Floppy Night, I've got a couple of options here that I wanted to run by y'all to see how you feel about them. So we've got first Invisible Inc., which is a tactical espionage game. So it's a tactics game, kind of a top-down Final Fantasy Tactics style game, but you're spies doing spy shit.
Interesting.
There's grids, like you need to hack security systems. You can see characters on your grid. You can use spy gear to knock them out, or you can kill them, but your missions. Some missions are non-lethal, but you killed someone. Maybe there'll be ramifications. But, grid-style tactics game. We've got Massive Chalice, which is the Double Fine take on a grid-based tactics game. But the hook there is that you are trying to keep this massive chalice safe for 1,000 years from the forces of darkness, and so you have to kind of Fire Emblem style pair off some of your stronger fighters so that they have kids, so that the kids can continue the fight.
Ooh, another eugenics game. Okay.
Yes. And you have to keep the bloodlines of your families flowing for generations. And
bloodlines has never been a problematic term.
Nope.
There's nothing sticky there.
And that's also the way that you get access to different unit types. Some families only have one unit type, and so if you have them marry people from other families, they'll hybridize their units.
I tried to play this game once. I did not find it compelling.
That's fair. That's why I'm giving options.
That's one of my pickup lines. It's, hey, baby, you want to hybridize our unit?
And the third option is an oldie but a goodie, Xcom.
Which Xcom?
So, I was thinking Enemy Unknown, but I am open to XCOM 2. I have not played XCOM 2. I have played Enemy Unknown before. I have not finished it. I would be open to XCOM 2 as well.
I feel like XCOM made my computer almost die the one time I tried to play it. But maybe it'll work now. Who knows?
So XCOM 2 is on promotion till May 7th. So there's one thing. Hey, Pete, are you familiar with XCOM?
I'm not.
So it is a tactics game where you play as a bunch of near-future soldiers who operate the Xcom, like the special anti-alien unit. And aliens are attacking the Earth, and so you're getting sent on missions to defeat the aliens. But you have to balance like winning battles and making the strategic decisions for winning your immediate encounter with the needs of the planet, because if parts of the planet become too attacked by aliens too many times, they will pull out of XCOM and you'll lose resources. And so you can lose by having all your soldiers die, or you can lose by having all of the countries pull out of XCOM, and then aliens will overrun the world. So you're kind of balancing the gameplay with a larger metagame of maintaining security for the entire planet.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds interesting. Honestly, tactics games are one of my favorite genres, honestly. So I'm on board with pretty much all of these. Em, you seem to have some opinions on which one we played. What are you thinking?
I'm going to try one of the XComs. XCOM
Right,
2, maybe?
I'm on board.
So I've played XCOM 1. It's really good. I've never played XCOM 2. Both of them are on sale. If price is a consideration, XCOM 1 is $750 right now. XCOM 2 is $1450. I would play either.
It's your call.
I'll go
Yeah.
XCOM 1.
All right,
Okay.
let's do it.
Because I enjoyed that game. I know that one. All right, excellent. So next time we will be playing XCOM Enemy Unknown for the podcast. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens@libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Thank you, Pete.
Yep, fun to talk about a game even when it's maybe not our favorite, despite being critically acclaimed.
That's fine. Thank you, M.
Thank you. Happy to knock this one off my list. Probably not going to go back to it anytime soon because I'm mad at it.
It'll learn its lesson if you just stay mad at it.
Tough love.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to shape up.
That's what I'm hoping.
And thank you, listeners. Till next time. Peace.